Hi, Mark. Welcome to Unleashing Light.
Hello, welcome. Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So I have Mark Patterson here, who's had a near-death experience and also has been doing sound healing and past life regressions for at least 3 decades, a little over. So
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you here to share your story. And so we'll be talking about the near-death experience and then different aspects of human suffering and why bad things are happening to good people and having Mark's insight on that. So yeah, so if
Well,
you want,
thank you. Thank you, Liz. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm happy and honored to be here. Thank you.
I am as well. Thank you so much. So if you want to start us off, Mark, with just a little bit about growing up and kind of what led into your near-death experience, that would be great.
Sure, I was a latchkey kid from Iowa,
Mm.
and I always knew things about people. I knew what they were feeling before they did. I always saw lights about people. I had encounters with angelic and divine beings. I saw UFOs when I was a child. And of course, I was always told that I was crazy, that, or if I would say something about something that was going on that no one else knew about, don't talk about that. Why do you know that? Just shut up. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And you learn that's very confusing. You learn not to trust yourself. You internalize it. You think there's something wrong with you,
Mhm.
or you're told that you're overly sensitive, and you learn that it's become so overwhelming that you want to turn it off. You want to shut it off because no one, why say anything? Because no one believes you anyway, or they're going to call you crazy. And my father, who was a Southern Baptist holy roller, he always would say I was possessed.
Mm.
And so, you learn to shut up. So, by the time I was 13 or 14, I was into alcohol because I didn't want to feel anymore. I didn't want to see the lights around people. I didn't want to hear the voices anymore. I didn't. And eventually it led to a high school party in 1985 at the Canterbury Inn in Coralville, Iowa, where I was at a high school party. And so I chugged a fifth of vodka, 4 beers, 2 glasses of wine, and maybe about 3 or 4 wine coolers um, in about 90 minutes. And my
And
body wanted,
yeah,
yeah,
Mark,
my body.
I wanted to ask, was that, I mean, when you were like just starting this drinking, was that to just, I know you said to kind of dampen down like these experiences and these thoughts that you're having, but was it also like shame from the family and like lack of acceptance, just all of that?
Well, I think on that occasion, that I think more than anything, I was just trying to impress my older friends.
Yeah.
I was just trying to, be a man, you know. And so they were all around me going chug, 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 chug. And the next thing I know, that I was passed out, completely unconscious in the bathroom floor of the suite. And I left my body. I was completely unconscious, completely lifeless. And the first thing that happens when you leave your body, you become scared because it's a shock, because you can see yourself from above and you're trying to reach out to your classmates, to get them to do something. And of course, they don't hear you. They just think that you're passed out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I was greeted by my grandfather Russell, who was my mom's father, who passed away when I was probably about just before turning 3. And it's very common that if you have a grandparent who passes away when you were very young,
Mhm.
they become kind of like a guardian. They kind of look over you. And he informed me that I was going home, and that kind of at that same time again, when you're in other dimensional realities,
Mhm.
you experience things simultaneously. It's all going on now.
And did
And
that
I
freak
was great.
you out when he was saying, you're going home, like this is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess but again, the simultaneous thing was going on was that there were seven angels that were about 14 feet tall each that were female in appearance
Mm.
were kind of talking to me about my life. And anytime that, and it was like a holographic table. I always use the reference like in the movie The Empire Strikes Back, the city of the clouds. That's kind of what it was like to me.
Wow.
And there was just this feeling of love and peace and non-judgment. They showed me my life as a hologram. This is a holographic universe. And they asked, anytime that I was angry, resentful, or blamed other people. And of course, that's all that we ever do, teenagers. They asked, how does that relate to love? And then they went into this whole thing about sound, geometry, and the caste system known as the Melchizedek priesthood. And then they introduced me to a being that was probably about um, 30 to 40 feet tall. If you ever go to the Abu Simbel in Egypt, there are the four giants that are about 30 to 40 feet tall each. The archangels and Metatron is one of those statues. And they introduced me, and this being had just immense love for me, immense compassion. And then that being formed an icosahedron and entered my heart. And that's what brought me back to life. And I've told the story for years is that, for the first, 3 or 4 days, I was really confused about who I was,
Sure.
where I was at. Everyone looked about like this big to me, especially my mom.
Interesting.
And by about the fourth or fifth day, the memories of Mark uh, took over because your memories of who you are in your DNA. It's in your blood and bones, and so that's when I I remembered who Mark was, and I was a teenager at West High in Iowa City, Iowa, and I'm going to high school there. So that's but I mean there was just so much information about sound and healing through sound and time dimensions and parallel universes and how we tend to incarnate with about 20 to 30 people that we call our soul family, that we do have various aspects of ourselves. Your oversoul can incarnate into several beings at once. And it is believed that when we meet other aspects of ourselves or the oversoul aspects of ourselves, we either really like them and we really click with them, we really resonate with them, or we really can't stand them. There's just like a very strange connection there. I've been told many times in my dreams that Sammy Hagar, the rock star,
Hmm.
is one of my like parallel lives. Of course, he doesn't know anything about it. I've never reached out to him, hey, by the way, but I do know that from what I've read about Sammy, and I do love his music, that he very much believes in ETs and UFOs and things like that, which I think the song "When Love Comes Walking" is about receiving love from a higher dimensional reality or an encounter with like an ET.
And what do you think keeps you from reaching out to him? Just curious.
I don't know. I've just acknowledged that I've been told that many times in my dreams. I've just, I've never been drawn to say, hey, like I've never felt the need that I need to reach out to him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. And so at 13, 14, you kind of come back into your body. And how do you process that as a young teenager?
Right. So being a teenager at that age is a lot of awkwardness, social awkwardness, insecurities, doubts, and fears. Well, what happened to me shortly after I came back when I was 16. Um, I went, I was staying with a friend up in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, and Peter, and I went to Peter's mother, and I was really adamant about this. I said, you need to call your daughter and tell her not to come up. It's just not a good time for her to come up. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And again, I heard the, you're crazy. What are you talking about? And then that night when we had dinner, I was like, look, you're calling her right now, and tell her not to come up. Well, they got pretty upset with me and they put me on a Greyhound bus the next morning and they sent me back to Iowa. And anyway, their daughter was killed in a car accident on the way up. And so I,
And did you know that was going to happen? Did you just get some weird feeling, or what was your reason for saying, tell her not to come?
yeah, because there was just a knowing that something bad was going to happen to her.
And did you share that part with them?
No, because I didn't, because you're trying to process it. It was just,
Okay.
I mean, because it's strange. It's somewhat awkward, especially when you're a teenager,
Mm.
and though I just kept saying, no, she shouldn't be here, she can't be here, just tell her not to come. And so I was just like, this is crap. I don't, I did what you asked me to do. I told her, and I tuned it out again, but instead of alcohol, I went to really smoking marijuana, hash. I was always just doing something again, not to feel. And then a few years later, when I was around 18, my other childhood friend, Toby, his mom, Patty Lou, she introduced me to Jerry Bowman and Joe Albiani. Jerry Bowman was a trance channel, and Joe Albiani was an attorney, a lawyer out of Boston. And you probably never heard of Jerry Bowman, but you may have heard of Kevin Ryerson. Kevin Ryerson was Shirley MacLaine's channel, and both Jerry Bowman and Kevin were channeling John the Beloved, the Apostle John. And shortly after listening to John a few times as channeled through Jerry Bowman, I found that John was speaking directly to me. And he would say things like, we never use the truth to be right. We never use the truth to make others wrong. We never use the truth to score points for ego. A master is not called a master because he himself says so. A master is called master because those who witness him say that he is master. And, he would say these really profound truths. And I think from about around the ages of 18 to 25, he gave me a lot of information and spoke to me a lot of my dreams. He and Lazarus spoke to me a lot. And of course, when you're 18, 19, 20, there's too many blondes, there's too many brunettes, there's, college football, there's Nature Boy, Ric Flair. And it just,
A lot of distractions. Yeah.
a lot of distractions, and now recently, in the last several months, John has returned and has communicated with me again. And you think, my God, maybe if I would have listened or paid attention a little bit more 30 years ago, who knows? But I think our mind, our ego, has a really hard time with receiving divine guidance, divine information, because it's so foreign to us.
So
But
I have a question. When you were speaking about the truth and we don't use that, so can you explain a little bit more about what is the importance of truth, or is there no importance to truth? Like how do you define it?
well, the most important thing from what I gathered from John was not to use the truth to belittle others, not use the truth to be righteous, but you mainly use, I would say, you want to be honest.
Okay, so using it to protect people or to help people,
right,
show your love, but not to
right,
harm, obviously not using it as a weapon.
right. And so just, and the thing about my childhood is that when I was a kid, I would dream over and over again that I would be inside my bedroom closet and everything that I wanted, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, when you're 5 years old, feeling loved, feeling like you belong, feeling like you mattered,
Mhm.
was inside that bedroom closet. And I'd have that dream over and over again. Well, again, 30, 40 some years later, you realize the metaphor of that dream was trying to tell you that all the love that you want, everything that you ever want is already within your
Mhm.
heart. This is bedroom closet is right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, I was just gonna say, of course, I didn't tell no one anything. I'm, I think I told my best friend Dean Jacobs, who's still in Iowa City, and the girl Kirsten that I dated back in the early '90s.
Mhm.
They were the only two people I told about my near-death experience. And then I'm going to say 96, somewhere in 90, 95, 96, somewhere around there. I got a phone call at 1:30 in the morning from a woman I never met, never spoke with. I really don't know how she got my number. And she described ver verbatim what they told me in my near-death experience. She talked about sound, sacred geometry, the Melchizedek priesthood. Uh, uh, in the Bible, it says Jesus is like Melchizedek, and thou are forever in the priesthood of Melchizedek. Those are like the only two passages in the Bible. There might be one more. And then she told me about that inner closet dream, you know,
and did you ask
and
her, how do you know this and why are you contacting me? And
yeah, she said that we were very psychically connected and that we had this like contractor agreement. And I did. I met her in person up at the Four Corners Monument in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico, and then around 1999, 2000, I have not heard from her since. I have no idea what happened to her.
And so, can you speak a little bit to the contracts that we make coming into this world? I think, you know, people have a really hard time with why we're here and why are we suffering and why do we endure so much pain, especially if we're the type of person that's always trying to be kind and loving, why we face such challenges.
Yeah, that's the question I get asked all the time. Why do bad things happen to good people? And there's a God. Why does there's so much suffering in the world? And again, I want to make it very clear, I'm not blaming victims here.
Right.
Um, Psalm 139:16 says it the best. It says, all the days of my life were ordained in your book before a single one had passed. And a lot of the Native Americans teach this same thing. In fact, especially the Lakotas, they say that your life is the way that it is because it really cannot be any other way. And John told me 30 years ago that the biggest key to this thing that we call enlightenment is that we need to stop doing this thing where we, instead of accepting our life as it is, we keep thinking that our life should be different.
Mhm.
And that's the biggest block to enlightenment, that allowing your life to be exactly the way it is. So in a sense, we basically make contracts and agreements. We plan our lives out uh, before we incarnate here. Uh, the 17, 1800s, the predestined Presbyterians were very much a part of the religious scene in America. And so we wanted someone to forgive. We wanted to be forgiven. The soul wanted to show love, compassion, forgiveness. See, forgiveness means for giving your love away no matter what happens to you. If
Let
you're
me
always out,
pause on that. So, for giving your love away. So forgiveness essentially is you're giving your heart away, your love away
your love
to
away no matter what happens.
okay. And so what about the person that's causing the harm?
Well, what if you harm them in another lifetime and they're just completing the cycle of karma and reincarnation? So if you're always out getting things, you're getting the new car, the new house, the new whatever it may be, you're always out getting things, you are forgetting who you really are. And so unfortunately, we keep doing this thing, this cycle of karma and reincarnation, until someone learns to rise above it, until someone learns compassion, forgiveness, and non-judgment. You look at the world today, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has gone, it's been around for 30, 40,000 years, and it goes back to the Anunnaki brothers, Anil and Anki, Anki, and the whole conflict was about the that they wanted to keep one group wanted to keep humans as slaves to mine the gold. The other ones wanted to free humanity so that they would evolve on their own. And so, I mean, it's just it's humanity's insanity at its worst. You know, my God is right, your God is wrong. We're saved, you're not. We have God, you don't. I mean, all the world's conflicts are based in the need to be right and how to worship God. Well, this idea that the land is ours, no, the land belongs to us. And, you know, there's a Native American saying that says, the land doesn't belong to you, you belong to it.
Mhm.
And you know, people ask, and there's a collective group. There's a collective group agreement that, you know, I mean, what is it going to take for people to stop hating each other, to stop killing each other? And so these souls make these agreements, you know, because that they loved so much that they're willing to go. And this is kind of, you know, what Christianity gets into when they talk about the crucifixion, that was such a, that Jesus, or his name was Yeshua, the letter J didn't come into the English alphabet until the 16th century, that he had such selfless love that he's willing to allow that.
Well, Mark, when we're seeing all this conflict in the world and these people causing harm or, you know, putting people in terrible situations, so is that their contract? Did they come here with that contract so that we could learn forgiveness, or is that them going off their path and utilizing their free will? And how do you explain free will as part of like these contracts?
Right. So those are great questions. So, yeah, I mean, it's my belief that we do make the masses, the collectives do make group contracts, and they agree to this. And yeah, I mean, and also what is also true is that you can really veer off with free will. It's my understanding that the only thing that's, quote, not predestined is when someone takes their own life. I don't think that's ever part of the plan. And that was kind of alluded to in the,
Somebody else.
no, if you take your own life, I don't think that's ever, like, you ever agree to that, you ever, but you know,
Taking the life of somebody else we do agree to.
yeah, because maybe what if, you know, what I always say is, what if they killed you in another lifetime and you just keep going back until you heal your angst, your hatred, your you know, that whole scene. So here's, people ask, well, that doesn't sound like we have free will.
Yeah.
Well, free will comes into um, how we react or respond to what happens to us. Because you can choose anger, hatred, resentment, or you can choose forgiveness. You can choose to evolve. Evolve is the only word in the English language that has the word love in it. And if we don't evolve, we keep generating the same experiences over and over again.
It's
You know, yeah,
the only word that has
that's
love.
that's the only word that has the word love in it, is evolve.
I've never heard that. That's so interesting.
So, and of course, we forget all this. We forget that we agreed that, when someone cheats on us or lies to us, that we would forgive them. That's, when the one we call Jesus said, turn the other cheek, he wasn't about, offering, let them to keep abusing you. But, we kind of forget that he was a warrior. And he was, um, but it was about, thanking them, forgiving them, blessing them. That's what turning the cheek is about.
So
And
where I get stuck, and maybe other people too, but when we're making these contracts and God is approving them, or our soul family is approving them, why would they approve somebody causing harm and conflict? Like, why would they approve a contract that is not loving?
because God wants to experience as many points of reality as possible.
Okay. Instead of just, letting us only have contracts of love and like being able to just evolve that way through
You'd be
love.
bored.
I think I'd be real happy. I mean, maybe bored as a teenager, but yeah, I think that's a hard one for a lot of us to maybe imagine or sit with. And what's the best advice you have in that? Because I
But
know it's really a
right,
challenge.
yeah, I understand that. But in the same token, that same argument is the very reason why Jesus was, quote, placed on the cross, because he loved the world so much.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I talk about this I've told this for years. You look you look at the word sin. Most people think that the word sin is to miss the mark, but sin is also Latin for to be without. And so the church did this really strange dichotomy in saying that you are born in sin, meaning that you are born without God, and that only Jesus was born without sin, or that he was the only one that was born with God. And it said that when he was placed on the cross, that he abolished sin and went to the depths of hell. So if you look at Gnostic Christians, who were the first followers of Christianity, they defined hell as the distance that you place yourself from God. And the more that you believed the illusion that you were separate from God, the more it was said that you lived a life in hell. Now, you look at this whole thing with the crucifixion, that Jesus had to go to the atonement, the one meant that he had to cast away any illusion, any doubt that he was separate from God, and became that total oneness to create the miracle. He went to that place of least resistance and created and allowed the miracle of the resurrection. So God gives us free will because, in one aspect, God is just experiencing just all these different viewpoints of life. And so, I've said this for years, the way that God comes to know the world is through you, is through us. And I know that a lot of people will say that doesn't make any sense, But if you start studying karma and reincarnation, we know that in 553 AD, karma and reincarnation were removed from the Christian Bible at the Second Council of Constantinople. It was declared heresy. And in 325 AD, by Roman Emperor Justine, there was about 14 to 20 books that were removed from the Bible, including the Book of Truth, the Book of Mary, that were all about putting the power of God within the individual. And the original symbol for Jesus was the fish. Then Chi-Rho, or Christos, came around 325 AD, and the cross, symbol for the cross, didn't come until 400, 420 AD.
And so can you speak a little bit to reincarnation? And even, I know you've done some work with past life regression. Can you speak a little bit to that process, and maybe how long does it take for somebody, the human body that's left behind? Like, how long does it take somebody to reincarnate, and how do we decide, or how is it decided when they reincarnate and things like that?
Okay, those are $1 million questions, right? So let's right. So let's say that you have a couple, a female that has a hard time conceiving a child, and no matter what they do, they just nothing happens, right? And let's say in a past lifetime in the mid 1700s, late 1700s, um, she was she found herself incapable of taking care of a child. So she takes that infant, that baby, and sets it on the front of a church door and walks away from it. So part of her block in having a child is that emotional guilt of having to give up that child. Or there's a part of her that now believes that if she has a child, she's going to have to give it up. So her emotional body does whatever it can from allowing that to happen again.
Interesting.
So then, the argument though becomes, well, look at the numbers. There's 8 billion people on the planet. I mean, the reincarnation doesn't make sense unless you realize, according to science, energy doesn't die. So what happens if the soul keeps dividing, 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 and dividing, and splitting, and splitting, and splitting? So, you could have 100 people say that they were Saint Francis of Assisi. And if the soul keeps dividing, all 100 of them would be correct, because that soul that was originally Francis of Assisi has already divided into other aspects. And so, and I believe that that's true as well. So, a lot of times these traumas are unresolved energetic blocks in the body that stem from past lives, and that's why past life regression is so effective, because the Zen saying is you cannot change what you don't recognize.
Mhm.
We're all doing the best that we can from any given point of consciousness,
Mhm.
and people have argued with me about, well, doesn't that make God pretty selfish if he keeps wanting to experience different points of, well, yeah. I think that's true. And I think that, but I do believe at some point in time here, and I believe it's unfolding right now on the planet, is that, we are beginning to awake. We are breaking free from this duality consciousness. And can you see beyond the duality? Can you see beyond good and evil? Can you see the yin and the yang, this whole, the holiness, the oneness? Can you rise your consciousness above to see that, we are all one? There's, that's, I mean, you want to talk about, for me, the most powerful quote in the Bible is, even if you hurt your brother, you're hurting me. And, what is it going to take to see that we're all one? There, there is no Liz, there is no Mark, there's the one collective, the one mind, the one presence, the one power that is always working through us, as us. The universe is good. The universe means one song, and it's our fear, our ego, our mind that separates us from that wholeness. But I believe we're going through some pretty amazing shifts in awareness and consciousness on the planet right now. These are all just catalysts springing us forward towards that.
And so what
And
say to people who have been like victims of crimes or survivors of crimes, whether it's within your family system or someone else, or just abuse in general? Is it I think a lot of people get confused about forgiveness. Like, what does that mean in terms of the relationship? So how do they evolve in a sense by forgiving whoever this perpetrator is, but don't continue to put themselves or perhaps their children in harm's way? What would you say to those individuals?
Sure, that that's another $1 million question. And I had unspeakable things done to me as a child,
Sorry.
and no, and again, I want to make this very clear. I am not blaming any victims here. I will never do that. On that same token, I really believe that your soul wanted someone to forgive. Your soul wanted to show the power of love. Your soul wanted to show the power of forgiveness. Your soul wanted to show that potential, that power of healing. And Elie Wiesel, who was a Holocaust survivor, talks about the power of forgiveness. You know, I mean, I've seen Bill Clinton speak, and boy, that guy's mesmerizing. Whether you agree with his politics or not, he is a one of the most motivating speakers I've ever listened to. But boy, Elie Wiesel, whoo, that was whoo. And to hear, yeah, I mean, to hear him talk and to hear his story, you know,
And so
that's
are you
and well, there's a story. There's a story of the female, the young female who survived. That she was hidden in a bathroom with several other women in like Zimbabwe or Nigeria when the militia came in and took over, and they like killed her family. And after all that happened, she said she had this just profound experience one night where she just woke up and she just felt like God's love or the Christ consciousness or the the Amun, the Egyptians talk about the Amun Ra, the invisible presence, and she was just flooded with so much love that she had no other choice but to express forgiveness. And I mean, she's been. I apologize, I don't remember her name, but that story, just came to my mind. And she was on Oprah. She's done so many shows about that
I've heard
whole
it too.
story.
I don't remember the name. I have a vague memory of it, but when you started speaking about it, I could certainly recall it. But so I get the forgiveness piece.
Right.
But what do people do in terms of like self-love and self-protection and making sure that once they can forgive someone, that they're not setting themselves up to just be like a floor mat? Because
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Stand in your power. Be true to thine own self. Be true, and that comes to knowing who you are. You're a child of God in whom she is most pleased. One of the Judeo-Christian names of God is El Shaddai, which means the breasted one. You, we are born to win, conditioned to lose. Uh, we are winners, not sinners, and you have to realize that you're going to drink that bottle of wine. You're going to have one night stands. You're going to make mistakes, but what happens is that those mistakes become our identity. Those mistakes, those past hurts, those past wounds become our identity.
for
And when
the
they become our
person or for the victim or survivor involved in them.
the especially the survivor. So the survivor, that's how they identify themselves as I was a victim of rape, I was a victim of this, and that becomes your identity. When it becomes your identity, that's what your energy field is focused on. What you focus on expands. And can you break that cycle? Can you rise above it? Can you forgive yourself?
Mhm.
Can you see yourself as that child of God? Can you see yourself as divine? Can you see yourself as, how is that a catalyst to get you to return to wholeness? You know, how did that contribute to your awakening? How can you use your wound and turn that into your greatest opportunity? T.
Yeah.
Harv Eckert, who wrote the book The Secret of a Millionaire Mind, he talks a lot about that. turning your wound into your greatest opportunity.
I love that.
How can you empower others that have gone through what you did?
Mhm.
How can you create a support group to be of greater service to others so that you can transform them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I have one more question on the reincarnation piece. But when we have somebody that passes away, and I think some people are able certainly to connect with their loved ones on the other side, or we get messages or things like that. But once they've reincarnated, are family members and friends still able to connect with them once they've moved into a new body? How does that work?
Yeah, sure. So just again, I have to use me as an example because that's what I have to go by. So my father uh, was a chain smoker, and you're not going to believe this, but I saw it with my own eyes. He smoked 5 to 7 packs a day for 47 years, and
Wow.
he finally and I told him one day that if you don't give up smoking, you'll be dead in 6 months. And so he went to a doctor, and the doctor told him the same thing verbatim. Of
Mm.
course, the doctor told him it wasn't me, right?
Yep.
And so I sort of, this is true, I swear to God. He quit cold turkey, and he didn't smoke for 10 years. And then he developed a tumor in his lung. And, we were convinced that not only were they going to find a tumor, but cancer just had to be, all over his body. And I'm not saying this to be cruel or demeaning. I'm just, when you smoke 5 to 7 packs a day for 47, there has to be something going on in your body, right?
Learn, right?
Well, right. And so they found a tumor and they found nothing else in his body. I mean, we were just all stunned. It was like, wow, what a miracle. And they said, he's going to be just fine. He's going to make a recovery. He's going to live for another 10, 15 years. Well, a day later, he flatlined, just boom. And so I'm telling this because I think that when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. His brother, my uncle, was shot down in Vietnam, not once, not twice, 3 times. Door gunner. The average door gunner had a lifespan of 90 seconds in Vietnam because they were shooting outside the opening, the door of a helicopter. Shot down 3 times. Not a scratch, not a broken bone, nothing. So when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. So, because my dad was deeply religious, we agreed not to keep him on life support because they put him on life support just to keep him breathing. So a month or so after he passed away, he came to me in a dream and he said, Mark, you seem to be in this race to be perfect. You might want to get out of a race that has no finish line. I mean, that's one of the most profound things I've ever heard from, and I've listened to people like Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, Wayne Dyer. That's a pretty profound, especially from someone who was a holy roller. And so my dad has come to me many times in my dreams. My grandmother has, and the little puppy that I had when I was about 2 or 3 years old has come to me. And the dog that I ended up giving to my dad, which was my favorite dog, was a beautiful pink-nosed pit bull, comes to me in my dreams. And so we do receive visitations um, from people that have passed. And I don't know if I can answer your question as to what makes people decide as to whether they want to come back or not, or when they come back. I do know that usually we go to a council of beings, council of angels, guides, and that you have a discussion or a telepathic conversation about your life that you just had on Earth, about what you did, what you learned, what you needed to improve on. And then you Some people come back immediately.
So, but when
Some
that
people,
happens, like if they choose to come back or that's the process that they go through, can you still connect with them like through dreams or things like that? Or have they just moved on and you can't connect with that soul anymore?
yes and no, because you might, they might incarnate as a nephew or a grandchild, and you just might know intuitively that that's who they are. You just have a knowing. And other times it might be what we call earth time, um, might be 6, 7, 10 years, and they might incarnate in the neighborhood of a family member, and you might never recognize them. And so I just think it's an individual person, but that I mean, we all have to learn to see ourselves in all people. You learn to see yourself in all people, all places, all things. And so I guess from my near experience, I want people to know really that you're loved no matter what you do or don't do. You're not going to fail at this. If you and I leave for Jamaica and you arrive 5 hours before I didn't fail Jamaica. I just got there at a different time. And and the other thing is that you're never alone. And that, I'm going to tell this story real quick because I want people to know that they do have guides and angels, and you're always being guided. Um, my my background outside of doing expos and conferences all over, so I've been in the restaurant industry for many, many years. And I worked at 82 Queen in Charleston back in the 90s. And at the time, I was watching these videotapes called The Flower of Life with Drunvalo Melchizedek, which is about the pyramids, the Sphinx. I've been over to Egypt. It's just really amazing a few times. And this guy ended up in my section, even though I was in a different section every night. And this night we had an hour and a half wait, a 2 hour wait. We were packed. I had 6 tables. I was in the weeds. And I'm talking to this guy, and I see this angel, and I hear this voice go, "We need you to talk to him about the videotapes you're watching, the Flower of Life videotapes." And I'm just like, "No, you're crazy." "Yeah, I want to call you crazy." And they go, "No, this is really important that you do this." And so I go to walk away from the table. I was physically pushed back by an unseen force, and they go, "No, we really need you to do this." So I'm looking at this guy, and I go, "What am I going to ask this guy?" And you go, "Are you a mathematics professor?" And he goes, "Mark, what did you really want to ask me?" And I kind of go, "Well, I'm watching these videotapes, which you probably don't know anything about, the Sphinx and the pyramids and all this mathematical stuff and the Fibonacci spiral." He goes, "Drunvalo Melchizedek, do you have those videotapes? Where did you get those videotapes? I have to have these videotapes." I'm like, "They're not mine, but I'll call Rosemary and, ask her if I can give them to you." So I call, I didn't get home till late that night. So I called Rosemary the next day and go, "Hey, this guy is adamant that he wants these tapes. They're like, they're his. Is it okay if I give them to him?" And she goes, "Yeah, sure. I don't know why." So the following day I meet him. His name was Roger, and I met his son, Sean, who was my age. And I gave him the videotapes. And a few months passed by. I don't hear anything from him. I don't think I'm ever going to hear anything from him again. And I go to work one morning, and the angel comes back to me, and the voice goes, "We need you to go to your manager and tell her that you need to go home." I'm just like, it doesn't work that way. I'm supposed to, supposed to work. They go, "No, no, please just go tell her." So I go to Missy and go, "Hey, I'm sorry, but I'm just not feeling well. Is it okay if I go home?" And she looks at me and goes, yeah, we're not going to be very busy today. We don't have our menu, but just you can go home. So the angel comes back to me and goes, we really want you to go directly to your apartment, which was in downtown Charleston. Please don't stop anywhere on the way back. Okay. So I'm going to my apartment. As I open the door, the phone rings. It's Roger calling me from France.
Mm.
He says, how would you like to work with John Melchizedek in person? Like, sure, awesome. Yes, 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 yes. Where's it at? And he says, well, it's up in the North Carolina, Tennessee border, kind of close to where I'm at right now. And he says, and I'm like, well, how much, what does it cost? What do I need to do? He says, everything's been paid for. Thank you for the videotapes. And another quick thing, I remember driving from Las Cruces, New Mexico to Portland, Oregon to meet this woman that called me at 1:30 in the morning back in 95 or 96. I was getting real frustrated. It was like, this was costing me more money. It's taking too much time. I got really mad. I was like, okay, Spirit, if you really want me to meet this woman, I need a sign. I need a sign right now. Otherwise, I'm turning back. This is BS. I'm not doing it. My gas light in my Isuzu pickup truck turns on. So I got to go to the gas station. And back then it was probably, I don't know, $25 to fill up the truck.
Okay.
Put the gas thing in. True story. I went to fill it up at $2. It clicked off. And I'm thinking there's some error.
Yeah.
So I go to put more gas in. Gas is shooting out of the tank. I turn the truck on, the key on full. I'm
like, too funny. I guess that's part of like getting out of the race. When you get out of the race, there's a new path that shows up. It's a new track. And
yeah, get out of your own way, right? That's of course what Abraham Hicks has said for years, get out of your own way.
yeah, very interesting. Well, Mark, tell us a little bit about the sound healing that you do and how you got into that and um, what that experience is like for you now.
So again, going back to my NDE, they told me a lot about sound and sound therapy and that I was a sound healer. And of course, the lady that I met or that called me at 1:30 morning confirmed that. And so just I mean, I've tried to do this over the net. I'm gonna have to get a mixer or something so we can do this correctly. But if you're listening to like a crystal bowl or a singing bowl, so I literally channel pure tones that come through me, much like a bowl. And just one night, we were doing a Reiki circle at the Unity at North Charleston on Leeds Avenue. In fact, it's still there. In fact, I was just in that area the other day. And this pure tone just came through me like a singing crystal bowl. And I mean, it just, people were like, I'm blown away by it. And then finally, on August 17th, 1997, the Mastering Life Center, which is a religious science church in Las Cruces, New Mexico, I presented that tone for the first time for about 200 people, 150, 200 people. And after about just 10 minutes of allowing that tone to come through, I heard a voice saying, open your eyes and look up. And probably 75 to 90 people were just out, like a hypnotist goes, sleep.
Yeah.
And so I just started presenting, from 97 to 2002, I spoke at many like Unity religious science churches, science of mind churches all over Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Southern California. And then from 2002 to 2017, I did just expos and conference all over, Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, New Thought Expo, Whole Life Expo, just kept, doing this. And we found time and time again that it didn't matter if there was 5 people in front of me or 500 people in front of me, that sound has a consciousness to it. And that sound would go to each individual person's greatest point of pain.
Is there like a specific hertz or frequency number to that?
Yeah, that the sound that comes through me is 396 hertz, which is all about healing grief and loss. And it would go to each individual. I mean, if person A had pain in their back, the person next to him had pain in their leg, person behind had pain in their leg or whatever it may be, that tone would go to each individual person's greatest point of pain and break it up, much like a, a doctor uses a sound wave to break up a gallstone or a kidney stone. And the other thing, because it's so pure,
I
that,
know that. A regular doctor does that?
yeah, modern medicine, they use sound waves to break up gallstones and kidney stones now.
No.
Greg Braden, yeah, Greg Braden has an X-ray video that shows Chinese healers doing qigong and sound that break up a gallstone the size of a golf ball, or sorry, it's a tumor the size of a golf ball. It dissolved in 3 minutes. And so we would just hear that over and over again. Oh yeah, I had pain in my back. It just cleared it. Person over there. Oh yeah, in the back. Oh yeah, I had my pain in my head. It just cleared it. It was really amazing. And because that's so that I mean, your brain, your mind shuts everything off, and it focuses on that pure tone. And so it allows you to let go. The thing it does, it's clearing your energy field. People have a hard time sleeping at night because they carry so much of their stuff from the day into their energy field. And so what that does is it clears it out and it gets people to quiet and relax. And so we saw that over and over again. Um, the word universe means one song. The word person is through sound, which is Greek for through sound. So everything is based on harmonics, frequency, and vibration. But if you really want to understand why sound is so important, the Hopi and Anasazi legends are that the elders would sing to the crops and they'd produce kernels of corn the size of most men's thumbs. In the book The Celestine Prophecy, James Redfield talks about singing to your plants to make them grow. So there's a man by the name of Dan Carlson in Wisconsin, and his wife had breast cancer. And he found that he used Rife technology, which is creating sound waves. Like a cancer is a tumor is a dense density. So you hit it with the sound wave, you break it up. Or viruses are crystalline in nature. You have someone hit alto soprano. And speaking of that, oh my God, I was in Dublin, Ireland in 2005. And there was an alto soprano and soprano out on the streets, literally singing for their supper. Probably the most angelic thing I've ever heard in my life. But those frequencies take us to higher consciousness, higher places of reality. But some of those alto sopranos can hit tones that shatter crystal, right? And so he found, and this Rife technology is what saved her. And of course, the AMA and FDA foo-foo this stuff, but it works. And so he was fascinated with what sound could do. So he started playing around with hertz and frequencies, and he found that when he ran a 4,000 to 5,000 hertz frequency through the crops, it generated a 400% greater yield. It literally made everything grow and expand. Well, then he became fascinated with everything out in nature, and he discovered that when birds chirp and sing in the morning, they sing at between 4,000 and 5,000 hertz. So birds are literally singing life into the planet every morning.
That's
And that
beautiful.
when crickets chirp, they chirp at 2,000 cycles or 2,000 hertz. They're closing everything down. So everything is based on harmonics, frequency. I mean, it's science.
And so do
Yeah.
these frequencies, even like the 963, does that work on like all living beings, like dogs and cats and animals? Is it different for people?
Well, yeah, there's, well, bees see colors that we don't, and of course dogs hear sounds that we don't. But everyone responds to frequencies and hertz. But I found that the most, there's an Android app called Frequency Generator, and it's free. But I found that 40 hertz, 174 hertz, 432, 528, and 369, and the reverse 963 are probably the two most powerful, or the handful of most powerful frequencies available. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about 40 hertz as the gamma waves, which really helps you awaken to higher consciousness.
Very beautiful. Well, Mark, where can people find you if they want to do some sound healing? And do you do that virtually, or do you just do it in the state that you're in?
Um, I'm going to pick up a mixer because I think I've devised a way to do sound healing virtually. But I'm in the Asheville, North Carolina area. I do hypnosis. I have 32 years of experience with hypnosis, hypnotherapy, past life regression, all those things. It's Mark, M-A-R-K dash Patterson, Patterson.com, mark-patterson.com. If you don't include the dash or the hyphen, you're going to get a famous jeweler out of New York City. So it's kind of funny, yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I'm here of service. I'm here to help people. If my story resonates with me, I guess just real quickly, because I get asked a lot. Well, people will say, well, what about people that when they die they go to hell, they come back? Great question. 98 to 99% of people that have near-death experiences experience what I did. Fact. Every now and then, you get someone that experiences, quote, hell. And or there's been experiences where the people experience like a frozen tundra, just like vast emptiness. So why does that happen? Well, I'm going to speculate that there are times when you go to an alternative reality, a parallel universe, that what you think you create. So if you think that you're a bad individual, that you deserve to go to, quote, hell. But I mean, hell was a village outside of Jerusalem where they burned garbage. And if you couldn't afford a proper burial, it was where animals could easily gnaw at the flesh. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just a control mechanism that the church used. So if you're in an alternate reality, another dimensional reality,
Yeah.
that your thoughts create, and that's what you believe about yourself, and that's what you experience. But again, God is love, and love cannot judge, cannot condemn. It can only heal, forgive, and expand.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That is a big question for people. And actually, to piggyback on that, if somebody does believe that they're going to hell and do end up in hell, is there a time period that they're there, or what happens?
I don't know, because it's such a strange concept to me, but most people talk, I mean, because the sense of time is so different over there than it is here.
Yeah.
But I would just if someone crosses over and they find themselves in this frozen tundra, which seems to be more common with people that try to commit suicide and they have to come back, or if they, quote, go to this experience where there's this evil sense, and they come back. Just start, what can you do to feel good about yourself? What can you do to forgive yourself? What can you do to let go of the past? What can you do to embrace all aspects of yourself? What can you do to pray that there are misguided forces out there. There are, that I will never deny that that's not true. There are great tricksters in the universe.
All right.
There sure are.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much. I hope that people reach out and use you as a service. I will certainly post the website and ways people can find you.
Right,
And
perfect.
well, so thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate your time and your energy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Liz. Right, blessings to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Likewise.